Hi, it's Kristen and it is Summerween. I really enjoy Summerween. It's one of my favourite readathons. I love the spooky vibes, but in the summertime. So this Summerween there are a bunch of prompts to complete, as there usually are. So I'm going to go through the prompts. I'm not going to tell you what I'm attempting to read for each of them because I don't think I'm going to be able to read something for all the prompts. So as I pick prompts and pick books throughout this vlog, I will obviously show you what I'm reading. This time around, the readathon runs from the 5th of July to the 12th. It's actually the 6th of July today. I wasn't able to join in with the readathon yesterday because I had to run 13k in the morning, which took up a chunk of time, and then I went straight to a friend's house once I'd showered after my run, and we spent the day together. I spent the day with a bunch of friends playing games and stuff, but didn't get home until the evening, so I didn't actually really have an opportunity to read a ton yesterday. So my readathon starts today. So the prompts are to read a book in the dark or at night, read a horror or thriller book, read a book with the sky on the cover, read a book you've owned for a year or longer, and read a novella, manga, or listen to a spooky audiobook. So straight away today I have a book club meetup this evening, and it's a horror book club, and I have not yet read the book, but that's okay because it's a novella, which is Graveyard Shift by M.L. Rio. So this is the latest pick. It's only like 110 pages or something, so I'm going to read this for my book club meeting tonight, and that will count towards the prompt of reading a novella. And I feel like this is a good way to get me started in the readathon, even though I'm already like a day behind. If I start off by whizzing through a novella, I feel like I'll have caught up. So this, I don't know a ton about. I just know it's about like a group of people who like come across each other in a cemetery, or like meet up in a cemetery, and they find a hole dug in the ground that wasn't there the night before, and they don't know who dug it or what it's for. But there's also potentially been some weird stuff going on in the community or the area, and like maybe that's connected to this hole. I've not read anything by M.L. Rio before. I know If We Were Villains is really popular, but I've not read it. I've heard very mixed things about this, so we will see how I feel. I don't think I'll update as I go through. I'll just read it and let you know my thoughts, and maybe like if anyone brings up an interesting point at book club tonight, I'll have a little chat about other people's viewpoints. But inspired by the mushrooms on the front, I've got these little earrings on that my friend gave me for my birthday, and in honor of the horror book club I've got like one of my witchy dresses on, so I feel very on theme for this readathon and this book in particular. So I will let you know my thoughts after I've read it. I am on my way to book club. I finished Graveyard Shift. It was meh. I went into it not expecting a ton because I'd heard such mixed reviews, and within those mixed reviews like some very bad reviews, and so I went into it not expecting much, and so yeah, I sort of got what I was expecting, which was like an underwhelming book. But I can understand the people who are really anticipating it, who really love M.L. Rio, why they were so disappointed in it. I'm now walking back from book club. I sort of went to book club worried that I wouldn't have anything to talk about, because like I thought the book was so like mid. I was like, what am I even gonna say? But it actually provoked really interesting discussions, and everyone had like, for the most part, the same sort of sense as me of like,
it was really promising, wish it had done more, that kind of thing. So yeah, there's lots of traffic now. I'll update later.
So yesterday I read Graveyard Shift by ML Rio, and then went to the horror book club in the evening and like talked about the book with everyone else there. And I think I said that we all came to the same sort of consensus that like it was just an okay book, but we all really liked the premise and thought that the book itself had a lot of promise, and like the writing was good, and we were intrigued by like certain elements or certain moments in the book, but just felt like it could have been so much more. Like if it wasn't a novella and was like a full-length novel, we all thought we could have really liked it as a more in-depth story, but as a novella, as what it actually is, there just wasn't enough to it, because all the interesting things we didn't necessarily have time to fully explore, and the characters, while they did feel different from each other, they weren't super developed, and I was interested in knowing more about them, some more than others, but I felt like if they'd been further fleshed out, I would have actually like cared about them. A lot of people at the book club said that the only character we really cared about was Hannah, who has like a sort of different element to her character than the other characters in this. But like the atmosphere to start with, like set in the graveyard, when the characters see the grave digger in the dark, it is like a good atmosphere. It's very descriptive. There's like a moment with a rat crawling one of the characters that actually felt like quite tense, but then the rest of the book never really follows through on that feeling, and so I was just left feeling like a bit disappointed, because I felt like it could have been so much better than it was. I didn't not enjoy myself, but I also didn't really enjoy myself. Like, I'm not mad that I read this, but also like I could have gone without ever reading it, and I don't think I would have missed out on anything, because the ending is very abrupt. It's like ambiguous, but I feel like if more had been done throughout to lead up to that ending, it could have been a really like, ooh, what is gonna happen next kind of ending. Whereas some things were like really neatly tied up, and then with Hannah's character there is that like, what is gonna happen next? And I feel like, again, if everything had just been fleshed out a bit more, like the tension and the ambiguity could have felt more interesting than just feeling abrupt. What would I compare this to? Well, the cover initially made me think of like What Moves the Dead, and this does have obviously somewhat to do with like fungal infections. We were saying it's funny that actually like a lot of the books we've read for book club have had to do with like mushrooms or plants having something to do with the central like spookiness. Like we read Mexican Gothic, Don't Let the Forest In, which isn't so much mushrooms, but is a lot to do with like botanical stuff and like the woods and plants in that way. It's just cropped up a lot in the books we've been reading. And I think you could relate this to What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. It's just one that like I wish had been a novel rather than a novella, because like some novellas I think tell the story they want to tell. They're really succinct in what they're saying, but also very satisfying. But like, maybe I want a bit more from them because I loved the world and I love the characters and I want more in that way. But actually the story itself is very well contained. Whereas this, I wanted more because I just wanted more. But it was alright. I read a book in a day. That like makes me feel somewhat good. I can return it to the library. An okay book to start with. I think it was good to have read this for a book club, because if I just read it for myself, I sort of finished it and went, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about in book club, because like this was just very like not nothing, but it felt very like I don't know. So I went to book club going, I have no idea what I'm actually going to talk about. But then, because everyone else sort of felt the same, we were like, did you see this as this, or did you see this as that? What did you think of the ending? Like, what would you have done? What's an element you would have played with more? What's an element you would have added if you'd written it? How would you have done it? And so it did like evoke interesting conversation. But if I had just read this by myself for myself, I think I would be even more dissatisfied with it, you know? But like, that's one book down. I'm feeling better about already missing the first day of Summerween. So now I just think I need to have a look at my shelves and see what I'm gonna read next. So yesterday was the last official day of Summerween. However, yesterday I did not have the opportunity to like read anything because I spent the whole day at my local Pride celebrations. I was volunteering, so yeah, was really busy all day. It was so hot. It still is so hot. But yeah, it was a really lovely, fun day. I had a really great time volunteering, but it meant that like the last day of Summerween was sort of just like null and void for me. So I'm gonna make today a day where I don't have to do anything my last day of Summerween. I'm currently like a third of the way into The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. I started it like mid-week, and I'm enjoying it. It's about a woman who gets divorced from her husband. She has like a freelance graphic design job which doesn't earn her enough money to be able to afford somewhere by herself, but she can do it from wherever. So she goes and lives with her uncle, who owns this museum of like odd things and curiosities. Then he ends up having to go away for a bit because of his health. So she's there managing this museum by herself and finds one day within the wall a corridor behind the wall that should not be there. It shouldn't exist. There's like no actual space for that corridor to be. And so what is through there? So she discovers this alternate world, this alternate reality. I'm intrigued, and it's not been like really scary so far. Like one kind of creepy thing has happened, other than just like finding a corridor that shouldn't be there. But I'm hoping now that I'm getting a bit more into it, it's gonna get like more eerie, a little bit creepier. So I will be spending my day reading that. I don't know if I'll finish it today, but I'd like to at least get a good chunk through, and yeah, I will update you later. I finished The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. I liked it. I thought it was like a really interesting concept, quite different to something I've read before. The world was
like not basic, but like wasn't super complicated. There wasn't like loads to it. You had the willows and then you had like the things, but was interesting and complex enough, or had like enough intrigue that I found it interesting. There were points where I felt like the book started to drag a little, but I do think every time I felt like that started to feel like what's going to happen next, like I need the plot to move along, it did. Like a bit of action happened, or the location changed, or yeah, something happened to keep us going, to change what was happening somehow. So like, yeah, points started to drag a bit for me in like various places, but when I did feel like that, then things, yeah, kept it moving. So overall I enjoyed it. I think I'd give it like a 3.75 maybe. Not quite enough to give it a 4. But I did have fun with it. It was very readable. I enjoyed it. It was like satisfyingly creepy, not too like scary at any point, but like a couple of moments that were like especially with Sturdivant, that guy, like, yikes. But yeah, overall enjoyed it. As for like Summerween as a whole, it wasn't super successful. I actually like got off to a bad start in that I missed the first day of it. Then felt like satisfied that I sort of caught up, because on the second day I read a whole novella, so I like ticked off that prompt to read a novella with Graveyard Shift. And like I thought that was interesting, and like it was really good to discuss at book club, which I read it for. But I didn't love it. And then I was really busy for other parts of the week and was like trying to finish up reading something that I'd actually started before Summerween, and was like, I want to get that done with, so I'm not leaving it for like a whole week. So that took up a few days of reading. It was Tell Me I'm Worthless, which is a horror book, but I was reading it for like another vlog, which should have gone up before this one. So I had like half of another book, which was a horror book. So I like, it's not in this vlog, but I did read that. And then I read The Hollow Places, which, yeah, I thought I'd like maybe bash through that and start something else, but it, with like around work and running, I only managed to then read The Hollow Places, and didn't manage to start anything else. But yeah, I crossed off the prompt of like read a horror book, crossed off the prompt of read a novella, and I think that's all I managed to do. Summerween always seems to happen when I'm ill, which I wasn't this time, so that's good, or when I'm really busy doing like other things. Like I was working and volunteering at Pride. But 2 books read, sort of 2.5 if you count the other book that's not included in this vlog, and a couple of prompts done. It has been a ridiculously hot Summerween, like proper Summerween, and yeah, it's just been very intense weather lately in the UK. So maybe that also didn't help, because I felt like I just sort of wanted to be lying there, not doing a ton. And I know you'd go, well, just lie down and read a book. But there's a level of like concentration which I just don't have when I get too hot. But like this was okay. I mean, within a week reading 2 books and like finishing off another book I'd started, that's like my standard reading. So like I don't know why I feel like I always feel like I need to be reading tons when I do readathons, but actually like it's just not realistic for me. That was my Summerween. How was your Summerween if you participated? What did you read? Have you read Graveyard Shift or The Hollow Places? And let me know your thoughts down below. This was my second T. Kingfisher that I've read, and I like her writing. I would definitely read more. I've got access to more horror books from her, but also some of her like fantasy romance stuff. So intrigued to read more from T. Kingfisher. And Graveyard Shift was the first M.L. Rio that I'd read, and I'm interested in giving If We Were Villains a try. We will see. But that is it from me for this Summerween, ending in not a very summery place, in a very sterile looking training room. But there we go. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon with another video. Bye!